Hi everyone, this is where I finally start my coverage of the serious stuff, i.e. the Major Open. The Major Open is a tournament of the British Championships every year that runs parallel with the main event. It is about, I think, something like an under, well, you won't get any IMs or GMs in, but you do get the odd FM occasionally, because of course they've all qualified for the main event. And it's a way to qualify for the main event actually, where if you get 7.5 out of 11, or 7 if you're under 21, you qualify for the main event next year, and you'll also get half price. It was very strong this, there was 52 players in it, and it ranged from me as one of the bottom seeds, all the way up to 2,100 plus players, and there was a lot of people in this who were stronger than people in the main event, because this year they were giving spots away like confetti with being the 100th anniversary. Well, they seem to do that anyway. But yeah, it was strong. And I was incredibly nervous all day actually. I came in the morning, woke up, went to watch some the junior games and the AM Open and the under 140 and under 180 championships. Ready for the series stuff to start later, and I did my prep as well. But more on that later. Then I attended the opening ceremony at 2 PM. And generally I was just too nervous, I wanted it to start, and I didn't really listen to what was going on. But then I saw this kid step up, it turns out to be Stephen Watley from Gibraltar, and he gave an absolute brilliant speech on the history of the British Championships, about how Hodgson once got 10 out of 11, and also saying that he was privileged to have been able to take part in the British Championships ever since 2007 when it was in Great Yarmouth, and he would have been 8 at the time. So I guess he was in the under 8 championship or something. But yeah, it was absolutely brilliant of a young person being able to give a speech in front of many people like that, and there was like no errors or anything. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, and it made me forget how nervous I was for the game, because I was concentrating on it that badly. And I spoke to him later and said how good it was, and he was very polite. And there wasn't many people more happy than me when I found out that he earned a scholarship to Millfield. So yeah, but after the opening ceremony, we proceeded to the main hall. It was brilliant, all the strongest players, and there was many strong players within feet of me, or in the same room anyway. Shorten Adams didn't play, or McShane, but there was Gwaine Jones, David Howell. It was a pretty strong field, and plenty of other strong players who I wouldn't usually see. So it was a very nice experience. And I sat down to my board at my first ever game, long play game at the British Championships. I was black versus James Stayt, who is 1983 day, so a lot higher than me, than my paltry 1747. But his ECF was only 166, so I felt like I could get an upset, and I had done quite a bit of prep actually before the game on his Roy Lopez centre attack line. But anyway, enough monologue for now, because now it is time to start the chess, and my first move in the 100th British Chess Championships. So 1e4 was played as expected. Just to note, these videos will be longer than usual because the time control was 1 hour and 40 minutes for 40 moves, with 50 minutes back for another 20 moves, and then back another 15 for the rest of the game, with 30 seconds increment added to the digital clock from the start of every move. So you can imagine quite a lot of thought went to these games. So 1e4 was played. So far so good. I'm generally a French player, but I've won my last 3 games with 1e5, including that 15 move knockout. So e5 was played. Knight came to f3, so far so good. Knight came to c6. Now he stopped for a minute, and I thought, has this guy prepped? Knight came to c3. Not what I'd prepped for at all. The only games in his database went like this: Bishop b5 to Lopez, a6, Bishop a4, and after Knight f6 he plays d4, which is the centre attack, which Short used to play when he was younger. And it can be quite dangerous, so have to take like castle. I actually can't remember my prep exactly, but if it's something like b5, bishop b3, and then you don't take that pawn because you're getting difficulties. You just put the bishop on e7, and then he'll play something like rook e1, and it's usually about equality. And a lot of his games with it were draws or losses. So maybe the fact that he was not winning with it often should have made me suspicious. And then knight came to c3. But I was still happy. I thought a lot of these lines are pretty drawish. I'm outrated by a lot of points. Could be far worse. He could have played the King's Gambit or something on the Evans Gambit. Well, he wouldn't because I'd play 3 Nf6 to avoid it. So knight came to f6. d4. Now this isn't good. This is going to lead to the 4 knight Scotch, which is a very drawish line, but it's very hard to get winning chances with black. And you can get, it has a lot of annoying pressure as well. So I took, knight took, and now I played already a very bad move. I played bishop c5, which is natural, but what I forgot was that you're supposed to put the bishop on b4 in this line, because I've not looked at it for about 6 months. Then we have knight takes c6. If it actually transposes, you're going to see e5. Yeah, this sort of line. So at the bishop c5, you played knight takes c6 anyway. B takes c6, and now I got a bit paranoid that e5 was actually a strong move in this position, because I haven't got knight d5 and knight e4 anymore. But luckily I can play queen e7, which forces queen e2, and then the knight can come into d5. But I was already very uncomfortable at this point. Bishop came to d3, protecting the e-pawn again, and preparing maybe to play e5 and hack me up on the king side. So I played d5, fighting back. And after a bit of a think, he actually couldn't think of anything better than to transpose to the bishop b4 line. Because he took, first of all, if he plays e5 in this position, then that's actually very bad, because I play knight g4, hitting f2 and e5. So white is in trouble. And if he tries castling out of it, I can actually consider playing d4, which is maybe interesting. Save knight a4, then drop the bishop back to d6, and I've gained some central space. And actually no, this isn't quite so good because he's got e5 as a sack. Yeah, that's not good. But after knight a4, I can actually go back to e7, avoiding any tricks. Then he might play something like queen f3, and then I think I use castle, and then this should be fine. Or actually, it'll drop sacks pawn, and then play rook b8 and get some counter play for it. That's an interesting idea. But instead of d4, I can just castle myself and leave the tension, and we get a sort of transposition. So you have to something like queen f3. But he played e takes d5. I can actually castle in this position, because if he plays d takes c6, I get a lot of counterplay. I can play knight to g4 for him to take an f2. If he castles, then I play queen h4 for a very strong attack, because I'm threatening to take an f2 and h2, and white is actually practically lost in this position. So he can't castle out of it, so he has to play knight e4, and then I can pin it with the rook. If castles now, if queen h4, we can play queen h4. Straight away isn't so good because the bishop f4, and the f2 pawn's protected enough. So what we play is we sack on e4. Bishop, not that. What am I doing? Bishop takes e4 and then queen h4. The only defense is bishop f4. We take an f2, and now he plays bishop takes h7, king takes h7, and queen to f3. Bit complicated this, because we can actually play queen takes f4 in this position. The best move is actually knight h3, king h1, knight takes f4, and after queen takes f4, rook takes f4, bishop e6. Black is better with 2 bishops against the rook and 2 pawns, which actually is a small material advantage to white, but White's one of White's pawns is doubled and the bishops are incredibly strong. Black can also play queen takes f4 in this position, because if queen takes f4 we have knight h3 regaining the queen. Oops. But White can play queen h5 check, and after queen h6, queen takes c5, the knight has to run, and White should be fine after queen c4. Because you don't get the two bishops in this line, and Black's king's potentially a bit weak. So that was an interesting possibility. But I just took back, undoubled my pawns. We both castled, and now Bc5. We had quite a few jokes in this tournament between my friends. We had some banter, and one of our primary jokes was basically if you watch the live commentary between every round of the main event in some room downstairs, there was it's done by Andrew Martin and Ravi Kumar, and Ravi is an Indian, and he says like fi instead of 5 a lot, and it's funny when he also says bishop because he says bish. So we'd have a joke where we'd try and play Bc5, Bc5. So every time I say bishop g5, I can't resist saying Bc5. So we had some good brilliant laughs. So of course in this position bishop takes f6 is a pretty nasty threat. We'll have to take back the g pawn to avoid dropping this my central pawn. There's also potential tricks with bishop takes h7 check, and then knight takes d5. So I play c6, which is this is actually transposed to a book position. This of the main line of the Scottish 4 knights, the main tab here. And again, despite never playing this before, seemingly he seemed to know that queen f3 is the best move, intensifying the pressure on the f6 knight. Not good. And now I played bishop back to e7 to unintensify the pressure, because I was worried that I'm not sure. I don't know for sure if he is or not, but I was worried about him taking everything on f6, and I didn't think the bishop pair was enough compensation for the double pawns in the ending. So maybe I should try and every counterplay down the b file, maybe b8. So let's see if he takes everything off then. Bishop takes, queen takes, g takes, knight a4, bishop d6, and after somewhat like c3. I think the bishop is enough compensation because it's an open position and the double pawn's quite hard to attack, and White's knight is offside. So I think I misevaluated that position, which is not good. It's not a good start. If I hadn't have been worried about that, I'd have played rook b8. But I played bishop back to e7, very passive move. But it's still book. Rook f1, intensifying the pressure again. And now I've got to be careful of tricks now. There's some tricks with, if I actually, in this position there's a trick where if I play h6, I think it's this position, I think you can play bishop takes h6. And if g takes h6 you play queen e3, which threatens the h6 pawn and the bishop. And once the bishop moves we play queen takes h6. But actually this is actually just a forced draw line, this, which emphasises how drawish this opening can be. Because say I move the any bishop move is answered by knight takes d5, and after c takes d5 this is just a perpetual check. So actually a6 is playable because it's just a draw this line, and I'm a lot lower rated, so I'd be happy with a draw. So if White wants to try and win after this he has to keep the pin on, and then he's forced to weaken him, but he's not too critical. I can play rook e8 and protect the bishop. But I played a move that is natural but bad. I played Bc4. Now this looks natural but it's quite bad, because as soon as the queen moves, as long as he's attacking my bishop, he's actually threatening bishop takes f6, moving to defend my bishop. I just thought it develops a piece with tempo. I mean, what can be wrong with it? Well, he played queen f4, moved the queen to keep on my bishop, so now he's threatening bishop takes f6. And now I should just have retreated the bishop back to e6, because in the previous position, instead of bishop g4, the best move is bishop e6, blocking the e file from White's rook, and keeping a very solid position. I don't think White's queen on being on f4 helps him that much in this position. So maybe White can play knight e2, trying to reroute his knight round to g3 to f5. But I can be in my counterplay. I can play knight h5, try and get the bishops off. In fact, it's the queens off actually. We'll have to take here with check. This is perfectly fine for black. We've got a slightly worse pawn structure with c6 and a7, but apart from that, it's very drawish. But I played bishop d6, which is natural as well. I was looking at I spent a lot of my time looking at really complicated lines where white plays bishop takes f6. So I have to take white's queen, otherwise I'll lose a piece. Then he takes this. I take back. And then if he tries something like rook e7, I can just ignore it actually, so it's not really doing anything. I looked at king f8, and then after rook e1 I can actually play. Well, I didn't see bishop d2 at the time, but yeah, bishop d2 is very strong. But yeah, that's bad for white. What I also looked at was queen takes g4, but that's even worse because after knight takes g4, bishop takes d8, rook a takes d8. White has no time to do anything because his h pawn's hanging. After he kicks the knight, he comes back to a very nice square in e5, and this is probably even better for blackness. So I spent all my time, about 20 minutes, looking at them lines, but what I didn't see was queen a4. And actually this is quite a nasty move because c6 is on prise, but there's also potential. But the problem is now he's threatening bishop takes f6, removing the defender my bishop. He's also threatening the c6 point as well, and I could see the only way to protect both was to play bishop d7, which allows more tactics. However, what I didn't see was I can just play bishop e6, because if queen takes c6, there is a nice tactic with bishop takes h2 check, because after king takes h2 I can play knight g4 check, and then the king actually has to come out. If the king comes out here, we've got queen takes g4, g5, and suddenly black's got the initiative. In fact, he has to play f4 to stay in the game. I play knight e5 check actually to get the queens off. And an interesting endgame is the roles about equal. Both sides have got pawn weaknesses. I've got an isolated pawn, white's got a double pawn. Both got active pieces. Everything to play for in this position. Although I do have to watch out for the rook h1, h7. That can be quite annoying, but it's fine. Now what I was looking at is the best move is knight e5 check, but can I try and keep the queens on to because my king's safer? But the problem is I can't really, because if I move the queen anywhere, say f6, then he wins this. I'm taking on and then my knight's hanging as well, so I've got to move it. And then he plays like queen e4, and white's king is actually very safe, and I'm just going to pawn down. But still, after bishop e6, white doesn't actually have to grab on c6. He can play a prophylactic move h3, but the thing is now there is no threat now, and I can just play something like I can just play c5, remove the pawn from capture, and if he takes my knight, I can take with the queen. This is fine. So I thought I had to play bishop d7, but the problem is now he plays bishop takes f6, and I have a difficult option now. I either have to sack a pawn or allow my king side to be seriously compromised. And I actually chose the latter because I thought the bishop pair would be adequate compensation. Because the problem is if I play queen takes f6, which is natural, he plays this tactic, which I'd seen with a take, queen takes d7. I saw I can play queen h6, threatening h2, but he just plays g3, and where's the compensation? There's only one set of minor pieces left. My remaining pawn's weak. There's no compensation in this position. It's not good. So after this, is there any better moves? Well, I think the best move is to take. Well, I looked at grabbing on b2, but my queen gets a lot of difficulties. He can play rook a b1. Queen's got to come to a3. And I can switch his queen across to h4. My queen's completely out of play, threatening nasties on h7. Got to play h6. Then knight e7 check. Practically got to take it. And then queen takes e7. And then I have to take the queens off, and white just gets a really nice ending. Although I can play bishop e6. But after a3, the moves like rook b7 are coming. And I think this is definitely better for white. but that was preferable. So c6 d5, queen takes d7. So what else can I play? I need to get some compensation. So maybe try and play down the B line. So just b3 doesn't do anything. Say bishop b4, trying to get on the dark squares. Simply rook f1 just to keep f2 protected. Maybe there's a bit of comp, but I didn't like this at all. The only good thing about this line is that it is bishop's opposite colour. So let's say I take the queen off. This is quite difficult to win for white. Despite because if I get a rooks off, it's practically a dead draw. But there's still a lot of play, and you can torture me for 52 hours. Well, several hours anyway. So I chose g takes f6, which is actually not as bad as it looks. Because although I've got structural damage around my king, and even worse structure, I've got the bishop pair, which covers most of the squares where his pieces can get my king. I also even have distant plans of sticking my king in the corner and using the g file to attack white's king. I can live with his position. So we switched his king across to the king side, respectively. And in fact, if this threatens mate, is the only reasonable way to stop it is to play f5 to block the diagonal of the bishop. And now, I was wondering, can he actually get away with g4 in this position? Actually, no, he can't because his queen's on priest. Yes, that's what I remember now. That's why f5 was quite good, because his queen was hanging, and obviously white doesn't want to stop the queens off, because I have to say, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, knight e2, white can play his position and try and win the f5 pawn, but I'll always have compensation with my bishop pair in the open position. I think white needs to keep the queens off and he wants to try and win this position. So queen h6. This attacks the bishop. And prepares moves like rook e3 to h3. So how do you defend this position? This is your first test of the major open. You got to put yourself in my shoes now. Suggest some candidate moves to block in this position. See what I'd be interested to see, put in the comments what you come up with. This is a critical position. Okay, I'm going to resume the video now. See if you still haven't thought of anything, then this is your last chance to pause it. Well, what you got to think is, first of all, white has got some potentially nasty threats. There's a rook lift, but my bishop currently, which is being attacked, controls g3. But remember, the rook can also swing to h3. Another potential threat is if I move the queen can come to g5 with check, and then take an f5. There's also a lot of potential moves like g4, trying to blast open the, trying to get rid of the f pawn, and then the mate in h7. So in this position, well, the best move is actually what I looked at. It's play f6. This blocks the queen's attack on the bishop and prefers moves like rook f7 to g7. And also prefers, in fact, he prefers rook f7, queen f8. Now the thing, what's going to probably happen is that white will the queens will come off and white will win my f5 pawn, but I'll have compensation with the bishop pair. So that's probably what will happen. So say white tries to sneak his knight into the attack, he can play something like rook f7, knight to d4, f4. But then bishop f5 trying to get the knight in. Then maybe bishop e5 trying to move the defender, and then some like knight e6 can be answered by queen b6. And although white's pieces look very scary, they're actually not doing anything, and white's b pawn is under attack twice. After f6, white still has a lot of work to do. It's still a bit better for white, but this is a good defensive move. I also looked at moving the queen to protect the bishop, but that's bad because if I play queen c7, then he has queen g5 check, king goes in the corner, queen to f6 check, king g8, and then just g3 stopping the threats on h2, and white could even sack it, and then f5 is very weak, and then white's pieces get my king. But you remember what I just said? My bishop is controlling g3, isn't it? To stop the rook swing coming in, because the rook lift is the most dangerous white stacking plans. So what move do you not play in this position? What is the worst move in this position, practically, to defend the bishop? Bishop e7. What did I play? Yes, I played bishop e7. I would give this move 52 question marks if I could. It's just an absolute horrific blunder. In fact, the game's over. The next move wins the game. White to play and win. Spot the winning move. Yes, rook e3, and I resigned. Very abrupt end and a nice 18 move paste into my first ever major open game. So why did I resign? And why did I play bishop e7? Because I thought I could play king h8. What I missed is that the rook doesn't just come to g3, it comes to h3 as well. I completely missed it. Rook h3 and I can't start the mate in h7 without giving up all my. I have to give my queen up with bishop h4, and then when he takes it, take with the queen. It's over. And another defense which I thought worked was I thought I could play Bg4 myself, but he just plays rook g3, pinning it, and after f6, h4. I've dropped a piece. So after rook e3, it is game over. There's no defense. If bishop h4, the rook uses h3 instead. The problem is I can't simultaneously protect my h3 and f3 squares, because the only way to do that is to play f4, which allows a mate in h7. And I was just a dreadful blunder. I was playing quite poor anyway. I'm missing a lot of things. But it's only round 1. There's still several days and several more rounds to go. And stay tuned in the Major Open Series to see if I can bounce back. Seeing as I'm trying to give you an insight to what happened off the board as well. I think it was quite quiet it was this night. All rather tired. A lot of friends had 2 games a day. And I also my round 2 opponents played. In fact, I've got a 1994 as white in my next game. But for now, please leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.